Hi, everyone. This is the Leadership with Heart podcast, and this is Heather Younger, your host. Employee experience and retention is powered by emotions. Managers and or leaders within organizations get to choose which emotions they unleash from within the people they lead. Leaders, meaning supervisors or above in an organization, drive much of the positive or negative emotions by their actions or inactions, their words, or what they fail to say. When a manager chooses their words and their actions carefully, they exhibit great emotional intelligence. These managers are often thought of as leaders who care, or as I like to call them, leaders with heart. This special brand of leader drives engagement and loyalty simply by being themselves. Are these leaders perfect? Absolutely not. It is in their awareness and sharing with some of their imperfections that we realize their brilliance. In this podcast, I ask you to see yourself from the stories my guests tell about the times when they were not the best versions of themselves, but how they used their hearts to guide them to a place of deeper connection with their teams and heightened leadership prowess. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you to follow us on Twitter at Customer Fanatics. That's customer and then Fanatix. And also just follow me on LinkedIn at Heather Younger. That is because I'm in the process of writing a book based upon this podcast, which will have amazing stories of those on the show. And I'm going to be going a little deeper too, so you will not want to miss it. But I'll be putting out tidbits, asking for feedback related to the book cover and just ideas and colors. I want you to be a part of that. I want you to lend your voice to that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at customerfanatics.com, and you'll get a couple freebies as well, including the first chapter to my book and some emotional intelligence tips as well. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you enjoy this show. Hi, everybody. This is Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast, and today I'm super excited to have Chuck Runyon on the call with me today. I invited him to the show. He was actually referred to me by someone who's a podcaster who podcasts on culture, and the way she described him really made me want to I got to talk to him because he sounds like he'd be a great fit for the show. Just another way for you to learn about how to ramp up your emotional intelligence and your leadership prowess. So welcome to the show, Chuck.
Thank you very much, Heather. I love the title, Leadership with Heart, because that's what it's all about. I love it.
No, it really is, isn't it? So where are you right now anyway in your leadership journey?
That's a good question. So every day I wake up, I am leading the biggest company I've ever led. We are in growth mode. My partner and I are in kind of a rare position. We are co-founders of a business that, of course, has seen this now from startup to being a global, massive business. I mean, we are in 6 continents today. We're soon going to be on all 7, the only franchise in history to do that. We'll be exceeding 5,000 units globally. And it started as Anytime Fitness, kind of a franchise fitness brand, but now our company is called Esteem brand. That's our parent company. And we have soon to be 4 franchise brands. We are just a couple weeks away from another acquisition. So, the complexity of a global business handling multiple brands in the franchise sector, we've got nearly 1,000 employees. This is quite a large company. And so it's pretty rare for co-founders to be involved in the company this long. And so it's really testing our leadership skills, because what it takes to lead the company today is far different than what it took, to lead a company when it was in startup phase where I had 50 employees or like 100 employees. And so, every day I wake up, I've got to make sure I've got my game ready to go to be the right leader.
That's interesting, because I know that we read so much. I mean, all over the place in different periodicals and magazines, things just about how what you need, for example, this founder idea of like, okay, the founders are now, you move out, you transition, you got a board, you transition out of the founders and you move to a different type of leader, right? And so that's actually interesting. I'd love to hear from you how it is that you and your co-founder maintain the ability to grow and develop and, change as that business continues to scale across the globe.
Well, it's funny. If I were to describe the difference between a founder and a leader, a founder, it means it's your idea or your ideas, right? And so early on, founders are used to being the ones who generate all the ideas, and it's kind of their way to do it. Now, as a leader, it's no longer your ideas. It's my job to harvest all the great ideas that our team has. And so it's rarely my idea anymore, right? Our team is so darn capable and smart. It's my job just to crail all the great ideas going on around here, edit them, make sure they have the right resources and live. And so I think where most founders struggle is you have to actually give up a great deal of control to scale your business. I mean, it's the only way to do it. You can't be so hands-on in every single division. And so, founders come up with ideas, leaders become a cheerleader for others' ideas. I think that's the simplest way to put it. And so, I am here. Sometimes I'm just purely a cheerleader to help our team, accomplish their initiatives. And it's different than being a founder, but again, something that we enjoy. And it just takes a different degree of communication skills and emotional intelligence, vulnerability, humility, and, just a great degree of confidence, because when you're hiring people around you that are so much smarter than you in various areas, I mean, that takes a great deal of confidence to be able to walk in the room and oftentimes, be the dumbest person in the room. So.
I love that. Wow. That says a lot. And oh gosh, I just think about over the years, the different leaders that I work with, and I'm not saying all of them, but many, do want to feel as if they're the smartest person, and maybe don't focus as much on highlighting the strengths of the people around them, the ideas and the knowledge of those, because and when they don't do that, they fail to have those people realize their work is meaningful. And when you do what you're talking about and have the ability to transition as a leader like you have, to do that, you are helping to create this idea of meaningful work inside of them, because they know their ideas are being heard, the actions are being taken based off of those ideas. Wow.
Yeah, really talented people want to be able to put their hands on the wheel and steer an initiative. They want impact. And you said something earlier, you said about, kind of building up people's strengths. At the end of the day now, Dave and I really are in the people business. It's our job to build our people, and then they in turn build the business. And so every day, we drive to work thinking we work for these people. They don't work for us. And so it's our job to make sure they have the capabilities, they have the resources, they have the right plan. And a lot of times they're creating the plan. We're just helping them edit it or prioritize the plan, because we also see the business in a different area and they need kind of a sounding board. So, Dave and I are active in the business, but we're not creating the detailed plans to win. And I just think a lot of founders struggle with that as their business grows. And so at the end of the day, it's our job to work on the people first. That is our first agenda every day.
That's so interesting. It kind of makes me think of this idea of like there's a train going down the tracks. I always say that it's the people that are the people, like the frontline people, the people in the business are driving the bus, are moving the train. And this thing, how you describe it is just as if it just followed what I always say. And it's a rarity I hear someone say that a leader say, yeah, I was kind of like, I'm along for the ride. I'm the cheerleader. I'm the person in the back that's just kind of going, great. Yes. And I love also the word you use of editing. I think that's amazing, because I talk a lot about this idea of helping people self-correct out of love. So sometimes someone might be going down a road that's not the greatest. Again, you want them to be empowered to take risks, to do what they want to do the right thing, and that benefits the business and themselves and the team. But at the same time, you sometimes have to go, not sure that's the right way, but let's have a conversation. Let's think about that. And so I like that idea of editing. It's an iterative process.
Yeah, it's funny too, because everyone romanticizes that there's this hard charging leader pushing the company to do more, like, jump over that, do more than you can do. And sure, there are times when we need to rally the team, to stretch them, to sometimes perform at just a little bit higher, to dream a little bit bigger. But I got to tell you, more often than not, because we hire such talented people, more of my job is asking them to do less, because super talented people want to do it all. And so what we're trying to do is help them prioritize the business, say it's okay not to do these things or to do them in time. And so, we have to ask them to do less sometimes. And that means too, when they're on vacation, when they go home for a weekend, do not check your emails, check out a business for a day or two. So we have to remind them to do a little bit less, because in the long run, that will help us achieve more.
I love it. It really is a basic concept. Like, this is not rocket science. I don't know why people aren't doing this in droves. And that would be why there are the exceptional cultures and those that are scaling and those that are winning, because the mindset that exists in the leaders to start with is the key, right? And your mindset of helping them be their best selves, and it benefits the organization, it benefits the organization's customers, and you grow and you scale because you continue to focus on them. is just not rocket science. This does not require an MBA, guys, right? This is just how it is. I love this.
It's so true. It seems so easy, yet so many people struggle with it. And there is a certain selflessness that has to come with it. What I love about franchising is, remember, our success as a franchisor is dependent on how our franchisees do. So inherently, we have to spend all of our time thinking about them and their success. And in a world that is growing so narcissistic, what I love about what we do every day is we come to work every day, we're thinking about how to make others successful. We're thinking about how to get people to the best health and shape in their life. And we're thinking about helping franchise owners own their own business. It's very selfless. And so we have an undercurrent of selflessness as part of our culture. We use that language a lot. And I think leaders ultimately should be selfless to help their team make great accomplishments, make great strides, and then again, celebrate with them along the way.
Love it. So I'm curious to know, where does this drive to lead and help others grow come from? Did it start in one particular place? Do you kind of remember a time and is it something that took off from there? I'm curious to know where that drive to lead comes from.
Yeah, I'll say this. I had an older brother. He was born with a congenital heart condition. He was only supposed to live to the age of 5. He ended up living to the age of 18. And, I'm a few years younger than him. But growing up, I guess I just came to realize that, I can easily take my health for granted. I was born with all of my organs working just fine. He was not. And so he was limited. And so unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 18. But to a certain degree, I think that stuck with me because I'm like, look, I don't want to take my health for granted. I also want to take my life for granted. And so therefore, it's given me this drive to, number one, to live is the best life I can, to be healthy, to not take it for granted, and to help others too. And so I've just got this drive to help others achieve their best potential, whether that's inside a health club, whether that's inside a franchise, or whether they're here at work. I really want them to explore their best potential because, most of us take that stuff for granted when others are born with already they're facing a headwind, facing challenges. So I just want to help people do that.
I think that's amazing. Often, and in my own personal story, I just recently delivered my first TEDx talk, and I'm pretty excited about it. It literally is about transforming adversity into opportunity. And so, but it was my own personal adversity. And then of course I share other stories too of how people are able to kind of bypass what's happening. And I talk about it starts a lot in the mind, how we reframe and think about our circumstances. But I love the fact that your drive comes from someone else. It says a lot about you as a leader that your drive it doesn't start with you. It associated with you, but it was about your brother. And you said, wow, how can I extend myself? How can I reframe my thoughts and then extend myself to other people and to help them achieve the things that they can control. They can control it. I can control it. We can't control how we're born. If we're born with this, it's a congenital thing, but we can control our mindset, our behaviors, the results we get. We can control that. And I love the fact that you're on that mission to help with that.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. We can't control it, but all of us, every now and then, need someone to lean on. We need a nudge. We need someone who can just support us in those down times. Because we sometimes our willpower gives out, or we get into those modes of life, phases of life, where sometimes we just lose ourselves. And so we need someone in our life to help us, give us that nudge at the right time. And that's what we do in our business. But I also hope we can do that in our life. And everyone needs sometimes a coach. Everyone needs someone to support them. And so hopefully I can recognize that when someone needs it and just be there for them.
Well, okay, so we all hear how wonderful you are, because the thing is I wouldn't be having you on the show if you were a total deadbeat, right? I have emotional, intelligent people on my show. I really purposely, I look for them, and people refer people to me because they know that's what I'm looking for. So we can hear you're just amazing. What I want you to talk about now is a time when maybe you weren't this best self. You weren't the best version of you. And what did you do to get out of it? And if you can be specific about the story or the time, that'd be awesome.
Well, it's funny. I mean, first of all, we launched Anytime Fitness 17 years ago today, and yes, on paper it looks like massive success, but there have been so many mistakes along the way. We could spend hours and hours talking about that. Things we could do over, things where we screwed up. But I remember as a leader, right, the company's getting bigger. We've got about 1,000 units in the field, and I alluded to earlier that it takes a different type of leadership, right, to run a company of a much bigger size. And we're still thinking like a startup. We're growing like crazy in the first few years. We got hundreds of units, and so therefore we could move fast. We could launch things. We could be aggressive. We could go out and get market share. We could be hungry. And, you don't have to apologize. You just go if you're a small group. Well, I remember launching a major initiative at our annual conference in, I think it was 2009. And I just didn't do a good job of taking in the input and the feedback of our franchise owners prior to this launch. And it was too aggressive. It was too fast. I got up there on stage and he said, here's what we're doing. And let's just say the audience didn't rally around it. And shortly after that presentation, I'm in a room with our franchise advisory council saying, Chuck, here's where we disagree. Here's where you didn't listen. Here's what you need to know. And I had to put that initiative on pause, for a good 6 to 12 months before we retooled it and launched it again. And so it just taught me a lesson that, man, this is a much bigger company now. We're not a startup. You can't just, run quick and free. You've really got to take everyone's consideration into this to make the right decision. When you get big and you're dealing with franchise owners around the world, you've got to make sure they are heard and understood. And you don't have to agree with their idea, but if they're heard and understood, they now know that you're making the right decision on behalf of the brand. And so it taught me as a leader, like those communication skills starts with listening. It starts with seeking to understand everyone's perspective. And you can't keep everyone happy, right? That's a recipe for disaster. But you better be able to explain in detail that you heard them, you understand them, but here's why the company is going in this direction. And so it just really taught me something as a leader that, man, I've got to change the way I lead this size company.
That this is so critical, and I'm so glad you brought this up, because I think many people have actually brought this particular thing up, realizing that we sometimes operate in vacuums as leaders, right? We just are like siloed in our own head about this thing we have to accomplish for maybe the next level up that we're trying to impress. Kind of like you said, you can't please everyone. And so this idea of listening actively, taking it in, letting them know that they've been heard, is so critical to that leader with heart. So I love the fact that you really bring that up, and the fact that you had to hit a wall. I mean, that's what we do as leaders. We have these walls we hit all the time. I've been I don't want to physically do this with my daughter, but I've been teaching her how to drive recently, and it's been really crazy, because when we're driving, she's just really frightful of when we have to, those concrete barriers. Sometimes you have to drive past the highway, and it's like lined all the way through. And she's afraid she's going to hit it. And of course, I'm afraid it's she's going to hit it too, right? I don't want her to. But at the same time, we can't be driving down that road of life, that leadership road, and be so afraid of hitting the wall. And so it's like, that wall's there. Okay, it's there. I hit it. All right, now I have to I got to get away from the wall, and I got to go now collaborate and listen to the people that mean the most, people that drive the business forward, the people that allow it to scale. And you did that. So kudos to you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And what's funny is, remember, that timing of 2009 was really the very earliest start of like social media, right? The first iPhone came out in 2007. And so, now we are so ingrained to taking as much feedback as we can from, consumers through social media, through franchisees, through virtual blogs or virtual chat rooms. And so now today, for anyone listening to this, there's kind of an art of listening enough, but not too much, because I want to make super clear, if you're trying to keep everyone happy, you're doing something wrong. And so there's going to be people unhappy with the decision. But if you listen, if you take in all the information, right, it helps you make the right decision for the business. And there's just no excuse today to get a constant feedback loop from your consumers or your partners or whoever you're in business with, because of today's communication channels. It's nonstop. I mean, you can always get access to feedback.
I love that. Again, I do think that there are cultures of listening, cultures of inclusive voices like yours is, and maybe it's evolved too, right? And then there are those that are not. There are those that are not. I know companies that literally they shut down the back and forth, the ability to be able to respond to people the other way. So they would receive it, but it's a one-way feedback loop. And there's not that closed loop process that says, we heard you that you wanted these 4 things. We're not going to move forward with all 4, but we're going to move forward with these 2. They don't do that. And so here's what happens. The people don't feel like their voices are important. They become apathetic about even trying to give their voices, and their voices or be creative and innovative going forward. And then when that happens, now all this negative word of mouth starts happening, and the culture starts to go down, and it becomes very toxic, right? There's just all the stuff that happens. And all you had to do to begin with was to stop, actively listen, do what you said, kind of consider the voices in aggregate, and let most of that drive the business forward, and let them know that you're acting based upon their voices. And it's very basic. Again, it doesn't require an MBA to do it, right? You have to care, and you have to know the level of importance that you place on it. So I love the fact that you say, listen enough. but not too much, because you can get completely bogged down by the listening process too if you don't know
totally.
how to do it well.
Yeah, you gotta be bold in your actions, right? And you gotta be okay with people being unhappy with their decision. And you better be used to getting critics. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got a ton of critics. It's just constant. But if you're listening first and seeking to understand and generous with your care and attention, you're gonna make the right decision.
Generous with care and attention. Love it.
Well, it's funny how you said this isn't brain surgery. This isn't like, this isn't, you don't need an MBA to do this. But what it does cost you, it's you have to spend your generosity it's like currency. Your care, your listening, your attention. That's an emotional labor. There's an emotional price you must pay to be a leader. And so a lot of people don't want to take the time and energy to listen and care and to really absorb all this information. They just want to go forth. And so it's not easy and it's not free. I mean, it may not cost a lot of money, but there's an emotional portion that comes with being a leader that you better be ready for.
Oh, I love that. I've heard that idea, that emotional currency. And this is why when we talk about, so the emotional intelligence portion of it is kind of where your evolution came from, where you have this self-awareness that's there, right? Where, wow, I don't think I've been listening. I'm kind of screwing this up here. And then the idea of people around me are really getting frustrated by me not listening. That's that social awareness portion of it. And then there's all the things that come out of that, and the ability to then start to inspire other people to come, rally other people to come along, and the team leadership and all of that. And I think it sounds to me like it's been an evolution. So the message for me actually is that not everybody starts the place you're at now, right? It took you 17 years or more to get there. But it's the journey that matters. It's the idea that you are evolving and daily improvement, like you talk about with working out. It's like this health. It's a habit. You start small and you do it consistently, and then you do it more and you do it more, and you get better at it. You don't just become Hercules in a day, right?
Yep.
So I think that's
well, and you mentioned emotion too. So we use a term around here. Everyone knows the term ROI, return on investment, and in business, it's like, all right, you put X amount of money here, and what do you get in return, right? What's your return on that investment? We use a term on here called ROEI, return on emotional investment. It's a part of our culture here. And not everything is measurable, right? It's tough to measure love. It's tough to measure care. It's tough to measure how you feel about something. And so sometimes when it's not quantifiable, right? When sometimes money or a metric can't describe it, we just say, look, this is good for the ROEI of the business. It just helps people live a bigger purpose or work a little bit harder or outcare our competition. And so that metric of return on emotional investment is also something I try to live my life by. I mean, it's just, we're emotional beings. Let's make sure we're investing ourselves emotionally and getting a great return as well.
It's really interesting that you've done that, because my next book is based upon that. So my next book is based upon the podcast. And by the way, you're going to be in it. So that's kind of cool. Like every person that's in the podcast will be on the show, will be in my book.
Very cool.
But the book has to do with that concept of a return on investment, and it's going to be called Return on Heart. And so it's kind of that same thing. I think we're aligned here, Chuck. We're going to have to probably talk some more.
We really are aligned, yes.
Yeah. So I think this is great. Okay, so for those who are listening who might be struggling, have you given some advice already that might just be either struggling or at just a crossroads in their leadership, or need just that little extra bit of motivation to continue to move forward? What might be some pearls of wisdom you can leave them with?
Well, as young leaders, I'll say this. One of the best leadership lessons I ever learned was when I was about 20 years old. I was coaching. I went back to my high school and coached our 9th grade basketball team. And man, it was such a wonderful experience. And of course, like most basketball teams, there are the kids who are more talented and then the kids who are less talented, especially in 9th grade, right? 9th grade, some of these kids were just trying out for basketball. But what I learned early on is that everyone, right, if you could give them even just a couple minutes in the game and you'd say, hey, look, we just need a rebound, or we just need a steal, or I just need you to make a defensive stop. If you just gave them one thing, if they went out there and they could do one thing that made it in the stat book, like they got a rebound, they made a steal, right? They didn't have to score 10 or 20 points. They just did one thing to help the team. They would come off that court with a smile on their face, and in the locker room, they would feel more celebratory because they feel like they had an impact on the team's success. And so what that taught me early on is that everyone wants some level of significance. And so it is my job from day one of the startup until now, 17 years later, I have to make sure that people understand their significance in this organization, that the small things we do here on a Tuesday afternoon make a big deal in the game of our company. And this changes lives. What we do here changes lives in Omaha, changes lives in Benelux, across the pond. And so everyone wants to feel that significance. They want to know that they're doing something that matters. And so for those of you out there listening, your job as a leader is to create significance for the people around you, right? What are they doing? How does it show up in the world? How does it impact the business? How does it change lives? And if they understand their significance, they're going to want to do more, because if that work is meaningful and if it matters, they want more output. They want more purpose. They want more impact. And so, man, if you can just think in terms of significance as a leader, I think you're going to go a long, long ways.
Wow. For those who are listening, I hope you are taking down notes. I'm writing crazily right now. If you did find great value, please do share this. And there are just so many people who can benefit from all the great people I talk to on the show. It's their wisdom that makes it so rich. There are quite a few leadership podcasts, but I believe there's something special here. Thank you for listening. And Chuck, thank you also for making and bringing so much richness to the show.
Heather, thank you. For those of you listening, we do have a book that my partner and I wrote called Love Work. It's about our 4 values of people, purpose, profits, and play. These are the 4 values that help us create a high-performance team. I think it is really written for a small to medium-sized business. So for anyone out there, they can find Love Work, of course, on Amazon. Or they can, of course, find me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, et cetera, just under Chuck Runyon. So, hey, I'm rooting for you out there. We love entrepreneurs. We love leaders. We love businesses. I have so much admiration for people in business for themselves, because it is hard. And so despite this wonderful success story, just know that we've made a lot of mistakes. It's super hard. It's as hard as today as it's ever been. And every phase of the business offers different challenges. But if you love work, right, at the end of the day, you love to come to work and work with people and do what matters. And so I wish everyone out there success in their journey.
Thank you for joining me with the Leadership with Heart podcast. Thank you for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. You can grab the show notes by visiting customerfanatics.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter.